Getting back to our account view, now we can use this button in order to save something to our keychain, because we have now access to our user repository in our environment. We can access it in our account view. So I will say add an environment object var user repository, and this is going to be type of user repository. So now whenever we access this, we are getting to our user repository. So this button will say user repository, and we have access to this save changes function from outside. So here I will pass my view model dot name, view model dot address, and view model dot mobile. Remember, we can press this button only when all these three of these values have any text in it. Otherwise, our button is disabled. And now we can make this title of our button dynamic. So I will say user repository dot user. So we are accessing the user object from our user repository, which is an optional. So we check if this has a value. So we say not equals to nil. If this is the case, we want the title to be update. Otherwise, we will do the title to create. I think again we are losing our canvas, so I will hide it. And one more thing we need to do is I want to place this, let's go to our ready application. I want to press this logout button at the top. So whenever we are logged in, we want to show it. And if we are not logged in, we don't want to show it to our user. So let's, after our navigation title, I am going to use a toolbar with some content, and the content is going to be toolbar item. With placement, I want to have it as primary action, and content will be if user repository dot user not equals to nil, then we want to show this button. So let's call it auth button, or actually logout button. So we will create this function right here at the top. It's a view, so we will say view builder private func, and this needs to return some kind of view. And let's create our button. It will have some action and a label, and the label is going to be text. Very straightforward, log out. And the action is going to be user repository dot remove user. This will delete it from our keychain and will remove it from a user repository user. And then we say view model dot setup user, and we will pass nil here. And the reason is, remember, this setup user is checking if we have passed any user. We will set a name, address, or mobile, or empty for our parameters here. So let's say if we came here and we had some kind of user and I click on logout, everything is emptied out. So that's why we are using this. But whenever we come here for the first time, whenever we open this, so we want to take, if we have a user in our keychain, we want to populate the information. So after my toolbar, I will do an on appear. We want to ask our view model to set up user, and the user we are going to pass is our user repository dot user object. So if we have somebody in our user repository as a user, we want to pass it into our view that will set up our UI. Let's actually rename this function because setup is not very clear. Right click, refactor, rename, set up UI. All right. So this will set up our UI and populate the user credentials. So let's go back and actually we can run our application and test if we can save something to our user defaults. Sorry, to our keychain, not user defaults. So let's try. 1, 2, 3, some street, mobile, and let's create. Now we have a user logged in. We change the button to update and option here to log out. So if we go to our basket, actually we need to go to our basket here and basket view. Here we need to have access to our user. So I'm going to again get the environment object. So let's duplicate this one and call this user repository of type user repository. And here where we have this dummy user, instead I will say user repository user, which may be nil or we may have somebody there. Let's go to our Firebase helper, and here to try I'm going to say also place order with ID instead of ID. Say place order for and order dot customer name. Let's see if our order will be for our user. Let's run our application. Let's go here, come to account. You see it populates everything because when we launch our application, we create this user repository object. This user repository on the initialization goes and fetches the user if there is a user. So we have the user set here ready to be used in our application. So now we have this user. We can go to our basket, which is empty. Let's add something. Let me delete everything from here. And let's check out. Just placed order for Dave, and it's a coffee Americano. So it matches with our username. So our local user is working. So now let's go and I don't know, add something to our basket. Right now we have a user. So if I go here and say log out, everything is removed from here. And if I come to my basket and place add order, see nothing else is being printed. And the reason is when we are clicking on that button, let's go to basket view, place order button, and this is calling our basket create order, and we are passing a user. In our case, we are passing a nil now. So it comes here, it checks items we have, user we have, no, we don't have user. So it bails out from here. We don't create or save or empty our items. So this part is working as well. So the last thing we have left to do is link our Firebase and then save our menu online, and then we will be able to create orders and save them online.